Good afternoon. I'm Danielle Conway, and you're watching Life in the Law. My guest today is Dr. Trish Kehaulani Watson. She is a graduate of the William S. Richardson School of Law. She told me I cannot tell the year, but she is one of our fabulous alumna who, again, has started her own business. Last week, we had part 1 of Law, Women, and Entrepreneurship, and we continue that theme today, running the spectrum of women who are just doing great things in the community here in Hawaii. Trisha, welcome, or should I say Dr. Watson?
You can say whatever you want. We're friends. You can call me whatever you want.
Trisha, thank you for being on the show. Now, we won't say when you graduated, but it was over a decade ago, right?
It was over a decade ago.
But that's okay.
That's okay. It's okay.
And the one reason why you should be on this show, talking to the people in the community, but also those who might think about law school as an option, you started your own firm right out of law school.
I did.
What were you thinking?
I don't know. I just had a baby. It was the hormones. I did. And I think everybody thought I was nuts at the time. I mean, I literally, I had a baby my 3rd year of law school. And I think it was a really transformative moment, as having a baby always is. And I think I wanted to stay home with him. I think it was really a very parental, instinctive moment. And I think when you come out of law school, we are very much nurtured to be entrepreneurs. I think professors like yourself, particularly contract professors like yourself, really do very much teach us about thinking about doing contract work and things like that. So that was huge in really getting me to even just think about doing that. And I think especially for being Hawaiian, that was nowhere on my radar. I think being young and Hawaiian, we're all sort of told the same thing, at least I was, amongst sort of my middle class friends, was go find a state job because get good benefits, right? So we're sort of told the same, we're all told the same thing, go be a teacher, get good benefits. So I knew nothing about GET licenses and all of these things and federal procurement. And it was really people like yourself. So we've been friends now. Since you were Professor Conway back then. Now you're just, DC.
Danielle,
we're friends.
Exactly.
And I've harassed you ever since graduating about things that I just knew nothing about.
Right.
And I sort of just hung out my shingle because I wanted to stay home. I mean, it was as simple as that. I had a new baby and was in no mood to take a bar. As no one should be at all.
It's interesting that you say that, because one of our guests last week, she started her own business, and she said the same thing. I went to law school because it gave me a huge range of knowledge.
Exactly.
I wasn't really interested in practicing law, such that I needed to take a bar exam.
Well, and I was slightly different.
You made a conscious choice.
I wanted to. Like, I was all excited. I had suits and everything. And then I spent, I think, one summer downtown and realized how hot it was. And much like this summer, had no desire to spend more summers in suits and stockings.
Right.
But, I realized over a decade later, I use my law degree every day. I mean, I think people need to understand that. The knowledge you gain from a law degree is a lifetime of wealth. And not just when your friends call you and be like, how do I get out of a speeding ticket? It's real knowledge, whether it's procurement issues or the work we do in environmental work about regulations, that is incredibly helpful every single day in our business. So, I hung out a shingle over 10 years ago, and then I went back and got a PhD. So it was a conscious choice at the end of the day. And like I said, you get sort of, I don't know if everybody realizes, you sort of get both generalized knowledge when you get a law degree, but then you can also get specialized knowledge. So I did sort of the core curriculum everybody is required to do when you get a law degree. And then I also got an environmental law certificate. So I had the generalized knowledge, and then I got a specialized set of knowledge that I used towards my business. So it was, and I love it, you know what I mean? Because I really do feel like, and I do not only local work and national work, but international work. And I feel like I am able to use the full range of all of that knowledge, not only, I don't know if I think it's just different than people who do practice and litigate, but in the policy realm, in ways that are very, very meaningful to me, and very, you know, I went into law school after getting a master's degree. So really my background was in environmental justice. And my interest was always really about change in communities. How do you sort of create social change that benefited communities? And I feel like we do that all the time.
Well, you're going into an area that I think is fabulous, and I want to highlight it. I really want to focus in on what you're saying. You have a background in environmental justice, you have specialized knowledge in environmental law, and these are areas where we see a lot of interest in social concern. But you have a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that business I want to talk about. But again, I want to suss out this consciousness in actually going into the business of this kind of social engagement.
Well, and I think it's why people are so, like, even when you approach me about coming on the show, people think we're a nonprofit.
Right.
I think that's...
I made the mistake. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's fine. No, I think that's great. I think that's the #1 mistake people make about my for-profit business is that we're a nonprofit, which is awesome, right? I mean, what we do is so far into social entrepreneurship that people don't realize that we're a for-profit business, which is cool, right? I mean, like, we have so entirely penetrated that people don't even conceive that you can be a for-profit business that is that geared towards community and social good.
Did you know that going in?
Yeah.
Did that evolve?
No.
Okay.
I was hell-bent. And you know me well.
Really?
Me? Never. No, that was because I felt like being Hawaiian and as into nonprofits as I was and into social issues as I've been for as long as you have known me, I felt like the private sector was that new frontier for us. I really, you know me, you've known me a long time and know that I tend to venture off as, you know, I like to find the tip of the spear, right? What is the thing we're not doing?
Right.
Where is the lone frontier? I like that kind of stuff. And I like the challenge of it. And I really felt like, you know, I've worked with nonprofits for a long time. So it's not that I haven't run nonprofits or done tons of nonprofit work. And it's not that I hadn't done oodles of environmental work.
Sure.
My thing was, if we're not in businesses, if we're not working to penetrate sort of that corporate climate, then we're really missing a huge
opportunity,
huge part of our community sector as a whole.
That's exactly right.
You know, so that was a very, very conscious choice to not only start a for-profit business, but one that at its core was about this sort of social engagement and doing business in a different way. And you know, I sort of say our sort of, we're about being Hawaiian in sort of all the varied, you know, things that can mean. We're about excellence and we're about integrity. And sticking to that, you know, and somehow we're still still standing.
In business
somehow
after over a decade.
Yeah,
so
somehow.
That's a great segue into what is this business, and give us a website name, because I've looked at your website. It's gorgeous.
Yes, we have a secret web ninja who helps us out.
Okay.
So our business is called Honua Consulting. So it was right after I graduated from law school. So I graduated in law school from 2003. I'll just share. So 2003, Honua Consulting. It's honuaconsulting.com.
Excellent.
And basically the four main areas we focus on is cultural resources. So we do archaeological work, so archaeological monitoring, archaeological surveys, environmental work, so like 343, so
and that's the permitting.
So environmental assessments. We recently did some work with DLNR on like the master district use permit for the traditional Hawaiian fish ponds for the state, working with Army Corps, things like that. And then communications, so we do a lot of work around social media, or just different projects. So when you have a project to help the community know what's going on, things like that. And then, God, this is terrible, I should know better, education. So a big one is education. Sorry, it's a long day.
When you're the boss.
When you're the boss, you don't know what you do anymore. A lot of education programs.
Right.
And that was always, it's a very holistic approach. That was always also very important to me from the start, that we were multifaceted. To me, Honua means earth in Hawaiian, so like the Hokulea voyage, Malama Honua. But it also means foundation. Okay. So the idea is at our very core, we are about not only environmental things, but really our foundation, that the environment is the foundation of many things for us. And those 4 areas, how do we communicate environmental and cultural integrity? How do we educate the next generation? So we've done a lot of work with marine activities, teaching the next generation. So we did, just in all of June, we spent a lot of time doing different field schools, which was amazing.
Exciting.
It was. We teamed up with Hawaii Pacific University. We teamed up with the Sea Education Alliance out of Woods Hollow. They brought their ship from Boston University and got to travel around. We've done work with Pulama Lanai and the Lanai Culture and Heritage Center with their children there. So we had 6th through 12th graders working with HPU and college students across the country, educating each other about environmental issues and cultural issues, and it was just amazing. I mean,
and particularly from a Native Hawaiian perspective.
Oh, it's phenomenal. So the HPU Sea Alliance program was called Aloha Aina, People and Nature in the Hawaiian Islands. The Lanai program was really developed around the work of the amazing Kepa Mali, who I call Yoda because he's just, you know, Yoda. If I could run around with him on my back in a forest, I would. It
speaks volumes.
Oh my God, he's phenomenal. So, and it was transformative. And to watch these kids, and it's really one of the most amazing programs I've ever been a part of, but it was just to take them out, to teach them how to do their own cultural surveys, to get to the point where we're teaching them how to develop their own conservation plans for their own environments. Right. So to take them out and say, what do you folks want to see done? This place is going to be your responsibility. So if this is what it looked like historically, if this is what has happened to it over the last 100 years, and this is why, and if in 50 years' time or 30 years' time, you folks need to get it to here, how do you do that? And let's talk about what we need to do to get it there. It's amazing to just be able to be a part of that. So,
and you educate all groups, so it's not just Native Hawaiians, but you are educating so the community of children here.
Yes, community of children and community of adults. We do community workshops. I just got back from YAP. So we do stuff all over the world. I'm going to the UN Small Island Developing States meeting in Samoa next month. It's just phenomenal. I'm on the planning committee for the World Parks Congress in Sydney in November. It's just, I get to do, like I'm getting teary-eyed, I get to do the coolest stuff in the world. So
it sounds like you're doing cool stuff. And we're going to take a break, but I want to come back and talk about what it means to be a Native Hawaiian businesswoman. I'm Danielle Conway. You're watching Life in the Law, and we'll be back in a moment.
Okay, this is ThinkTech, and one of our favorite shows is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. And it goes 4 to 5 every Wednesday right here from ThinkTech in Pioneer Plaza at the core of downtown Honolulu. And my co-host is Ray Starling from Hawaii Energy. Ray, do you like the show?
I love the show. It's great to see all the new people coming in with new ideas about how to save energy, get us off of fossil fuel, and that's what it's all about. So Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. See us on Wednesday afternoons at 4 o'clock.
I knew he'd say that. Thanks, Ray.
Welcome back. I'm Danielle Conway. You're watching Life in the Law in the ThinkTech Talk series. My guest today is Dr. Trisha Watson. She is the principal at Honua Consulting, and it's a fabulous discussion we're having. And I wanted to get in this question because it's a question I think that is asked of anyone in the Native Hawaiian community who is going out and venturing out and being innovative, being entrepreneurial. You have obligations to your community. Have you found it difficult to mesh those obligations of community with the rigors of, your commercial life?
Honestly, and I don't say this just because we're on a show called Life of the Law.
Right.
Having a law degree has been hugely beneficial to that.
Okay.
For those who tuned in for the first segment, so one of my areas of specialization was environmental law, but the other was nonprofit law. Mm-hmm. I was very, very fortunate to be there with a woman named Liz Moody. I don't know if you remember when she came, mm-hmm. and she did her visiting professorship there, and she was phenomenal. She was one of the first women admitted into the bar in, I can't remember, I think Ohio or something, and she helped write the Model Act of Nonprofit Corporations, and she became a dear, dear friend and mentor of mine. Mm-hmm. And I spent this time with her just absorbing way too much about nonprofit law. But it was a huge learning experience for me that I think also factored into my decision into not becoming a practicing attorney. Mm-hmm. And I was able to turn around and really do a lot of work in the community with nonprofits. So ever since law school, I've been able to just volunteer time, just doing compliance workshops and work with nonprofits on just governance of nonprofit organizations, primarily Hawaiian serving nonprofit organizations. Over the last 10 years, I actually had to add it up for something recently. We have provided technical assistance to over 500 Hawaiian serving nonprofit organizations,
That's
totaling
fantastic. Over
10,000 hours of pro bono. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily service, and that's really another part of the education of what we do. I actually tried at one point to have a separate business, and I just am not good at charging my community when it comes to that stuff, because often it's just questions, right? Like, Auntie so-and-so will call and be like, I don't understand the 990N requirements. And I'll just be like, Auntie, I'll send you an email to and I'll just send the IRS-stayexempt.org email. And so it's not really anything that people should be charging the community for anyway. Right? It's sort of just the passage of information, which is perfectly legal to do, That's right. And so I think, and again, that's so much of having a law degree is knowing where information is.
That's right.
And
or knowing how to find it.
And knowing how to find it.
Right.
I think again, that's where those 3 years of, and I mean, I graduated over 10 years ago, but I think knowing that sort of lifetime, I tell people it's the pedagogy of knowing how to access that sort of information, knowing how to sort of investigate certain things, and then sort of being a resource to your community in that regard. Even if, the case law you took 10 years ago might not be current, you know how to find certain answers, or at least what questions to be asking. So that's really where I think I personally find, I am still very much of service to my community. And that's very easy to do. And I think, and I think we are very, very lucky in this community to have people like Hugh Jones be our Attorney General for the Charities Division. He's a dream. I tell people, my God, I can't rave about much with the state, but this man is fantastic. And being able to just give people good information. And that's really a product of me being a graduate of the law school.
Terrific. So here's another question I have for you. And it again centers on your roots in this community. Have you found avenues of mentorship from other Native Hawaiian business people who've been able to help facilitate your growth? Or is it something that you'd like to start up in the future?
I know you, so this will just be between you and me and all your viewers. Not really. I think.
And the reason I ask you that question is many times businesses, particularly businesses where people of color or Native Hawaiians are operating, they're so involved in their businesses and making them successful, it's harder to put your head up and say, okay, we have to now draw the connections in this space.
Right.
Where you can draw them easily or more easily and readily in the cultural space, but in the business space, it's really difficult.
I think that is the case. We are 8A qualified.
Excellent.
We have not applied for our 8A. We are a UDBE. We are certified as a UDBE. I think I have benefited from the SBA. I did the E200 program. I've done certain programs, and I think I have popped my head up in the last couple of years a little bit more. And I don't know if I found mentorship. I think I have found a peer group. I think there are certainly people like Deneen Lun, who's the owner of Manuhea Li'i, or Koa Chang, who owns the Li'ikula Lavender Farms, Will Cordes, who owns like 49ers. There are people within my peer group who were also all part of the E200 SBA class I took, who are marvelous, who are Native Hawaiian business owners, who are more my peers, who I think have been inspiration and resources and friends, who have very much we've sort of drawn together. And I think that has been a huge resource for me, and a comfort and, sewing circle. I don't know.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, sort of.
We're in this together.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my God, we will get through this.
Right.
So I think that has been, I don't know if so much there has been mentorship. I think I'm a board member of the Maui Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce Foundation and the Maui Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce. And I certainly think on Maui, the Native Hawaiian business community there has been extraordinary. Okay. I know a number of years ago, probably the first person to really grab me by the hand and say, come, young Hawaiian entrepreneur, come meet others, was Judge Boyd Mossman, who was an OHA trustee at the time, and really far more important and busier than I was, but said, come to Maui at our BizFest. And I remember, picked me up from the airport. I had no idea what was going on. I just sort of showed up. He picked me up from the airport, and I've been going to their event ever since, and now sit on one of their boards, and have been tremendously grateful for that ever since, and have found lifelong friendships and support out of that relationship. So I have I very much Maui no ko'oi all over the place, because that was huge for me. And I think there are very, very few people like that who go out of their way. And I do find it a little saddening that it was Maui that reached out, because I don't think there are other people doing it. And I know there's a want. I've talked to people like Sherry Manor. We're a member, my company's a member of the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce. Right. And Sherry's been fantastic. And we've talked about forming a Native Hawaiian section of the chamber here. Right. Because I believe it is needed. I believe there are so many young Hawaiians like myself who don't know what we get into it. We want to do it. Right. There's certainly the will and the want. There's not necessarily the no often enough.
And is that something, for example, the law school might help you with?
Oh God, we would love it.
Okay.
You and I are going to talk now.
Okay,
that's
good.
it. I'm going to be volunteering you all over the place now.
That is exactly why we're here.
No, I think I have an amazing group of peers. I think, we're friends with people like Pony Askew, who does street grinds. Her and her husband, Brandon, are two of the most amazing entrepreneurs I know. I remember she tells me the story about, how she brought together Eat the Street. And it's amazing. And you know, I think people like that deserve all the accolades in the world and all the support in the world they need to scale their businesses. And
now I have a quick question about this, because these are people who are obviously innovating in our community, and you know, some will make distinctions between low-level innovations and high-level innovations. To me, innovation's innovation. I don't care what level it is. Do many of these individuals you're identifying now, do they recognize themselves first as Indigenous business people, or do they recognize themselves as Indigenous peoples who, you know, as business people who happen to be Native Hawaiian?
I don't know if I've ever asked them that question. We're all just sort of, I would say that to all of them, it's sort of like me. I mean, being Hawaiian is important to me, and being a business person is important to me. And I think, I don't know that we ever qualify one as being more important than the other. I think they're equally important. And I think I would never, you know, I'm Hawaiian, and that's just who I am.
And the reason I asked that, you know, it's probably a lead-in question, right?
I am. I'm trying to figure out where you're going, because now I'm like, oh God, I feel like I'm back at law school.
So here's why I asked that, because a lot of people actually criticize the 8A program. You know, and the 8A program is a program where we identify businesses that are socially and economically disadvantaged, and we provide them with opportunities in government procurement in order to compete at levels that other large businesses compete at. And we give training to make sure that they can compete years down the line. And so you said you were 8A qualified, but you hadn't actually processed the paperwork. And, you know, my thought in that is, you know, don't let a good opportunity get away. Might there be some people in the community who don't want to identify that way, who say, oh, I don't want to take advantage of that because that's not what I'm about? Or
No, I don't think that's it at all. I just think there are only so many hours in the day. I remember when I was still at the university and I was working on a fellowship program, and one of the things we looked at in the management of that fellowship program is the amount of, I don't know if I call them stressors, but the amount of demands upon our resources. And the reality is, when you're Hawaiian in this community, the amount of demands upon you, like I get up at, I think there was some article about me recently, and I said I have 3 work weeks, right? I have the before and after my 9 to 5. So I was up at 6 this morning to start global conference calls, because, you know, if you want to talk to Switzerland, I'm either, you gotta be up because it's 12 hours difference, and these other things with these other things I do. Then there's after the 5, when all the aunties get home because they want to ask about nonprofits or other stuff, and then there's, you know, your family life, and then there's actually running my business from 9 to 5, and then there's the weekend when I actually get everything done, and so, and I don't know that other people have that. You know, when you're part of an Indigenous community, especially one like the Hawaiian community, where there are still serious inequities and demands and needs, and I think that's some of the things our CEO group would often talk about. It's hard, you know, make no bones about it, that it is often very, very hard, because it is very hard to say no when people need things, when people want you to contribute to their fundraiser. And when it's one fundraiser, it's fine. When it's 200 fundraisers,
you're at a different scale.
You're at a different scale.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break, because when we come back, I'm going to ask you about scaling up your business.
Oh, Lord.
In Hawaii. I'm Danielle Conway. My guest is Dr. Trisha Watson. You're watching Life in the Law in the ThinkTech series. We'll be right back.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome back. I'm Danielle Conway. You're watching Life in the Law on the ThinkTech Talk series. My guest is Dr. Trisha Watson, and we're here talking about her company, Honua Consulting. And the question we last left off with was scaling up. So in that last segment, yeah, you're up at 6, you're in the bed at midnight, and you're working all weekends. And that's primarily regional requirements, regional obligations. Your business is growing.
It's horrible. It's scary. It's a beautiful and scary.
It's a beautiful and scary. Are you? How many employees do you have now? How many are you going to have to meet this scaled up requirement?
Between employees and contractors, we're probably up to 15.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful and scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And where do you expect to be, say, in the
know.
next 5 years? You
This
can't
is
quit.
all day. I was like, oh God, please don't let me melt down around scaling today.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many days I'm like, God, you know, when I got into this was like my frontier. It's like Star Trek, even though I don't really watch Star Trek. I was more a Star Wars person. But it's hard, man. Businesses are, I was the wrong guest.
No, you're great.
Courage Hawaiians, don't do it.
No, it's life in the law. And that's the importance of it. What are the challenges that people have to expect to meet?
You know, I'm not a good manager of people. People who so if you're gonna go into businesses, it's good. It's challenging. I really think it's important for Hawaiians to go into business. I really do. I firmly believe that. But it's not a walk in the park. Oh, Jesus, is it not a walk in the park? Managing people is hard. I think it's particularly hard for Hawaiians, especially because we know everybody and we're related to everybody. It's hard. I think it's sort of reconciling culturally, dealing with entrepreneurship and the Hawaiian cultural values we are raised with is a daily challenge. Scaling is hard. I would say that's and where we are right now, where we're really poised to get bigger, is probably the hardest thing we've ever gone through. I've been going through this for about 2 or 3 years now. It was why I went into the SBA program. I'll say I ran back into my hovel like Whakatane Phil on Groundhog's Day after seeing his shadow. And now, I really like international work.
But once you go there, there's no coming back.
Yeah, man, I want to run for the hills. I'm ready to move to some island atoll.
And that's not going to happen, so give up that pipe dream.
I know.
But
it's my vision.
Give up that pipe dream. But when you are now venturing into the international marketplace, particularly, and I don't want to harp on this, but I think it's significant. When you're an Indigenous person coming from and representing an Indigenous community, whether you want to or not, there are expectations. There are expectations of what issues you'll take on. There are expectations of what obligations you'll take on. And once you enter the international sphere, those become exponentially greater.
It is. And it's, I feel very, very blessed. At the end of the day, it's hard because there's not only the entire responsibility of running a business, which is really, in many ways, black and white. You need to make your balance sheets work. You need to make your revenues and your expenditures work. And I'm very, very lucky that I have a great business manager who is also my brother, speaking of family, who works for you and is really, I could not have asked for a better person because he's the only person perhaps on earth who could have managed me.
Right.
Other than you're very good at also managing me. Who is good at dealing with me on a sort of analytical level, and I'm a wuss in so many ways. And it's overwhelming emotionally. When you get asked to represent a culture, when you get asked to manage sensitive information that has been accumulated from a certain peoples for generations. And people, so I encourage people to do it, but people need to be mindful of the responsibility they are taking on. And I encourage people to walk before they run. I think many, many people tend to I'm going to start a business.
Right.
And it's not. I started with me and my baby, me and my newborn son.
That's right.
And so I tell people I gave birth twice in 2003, right? Once to my son and once to my company.
Right.
And they're both hugely rewarding in totally different ways, and they both make me nuts in totally different ways. And I really couldn't tell you. I think I'm great and terrible at both.
That's the mark of a good parent and a good business owner.
I think so. But it's rewarding, and I love it, and I hope, however I can help other business owners.
Right.
I hope to, because I think it's important and challenging, and I hope more Hawaiians get into it, and I hope more women get into it. And I would love to partner with the law school more. And I hope I honestly hope people who are even considering law school, even if they don't want to practice, go and take that leap. Because for me, I've never regretted it. And I tell people, when you're at the sort of bottom of that mountain, I tell people many days it feels like Sisyphus with other things, but it wasn't with law school. It went fast, and I had a baby in the middle of it. And it went faster than I thought it was going to. And I look back now, and it was and mine was, there was a strike, there was 9/11, and I had a baby. So I had the most interesting 3 years of any law student in history.
I'm sure.
And it went fast, and I've never regretted it. And I have used that degree to my advantage and the advantage of my company and my community every single day ever since. So I really, really encourage people to go for that degree.
Do you think, and we have only time for a couple more questions, but do you think that there is something to be learned about corporate governance from Indigenous businesses because of the infusion of values within the business culture?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we survived. I mean, I was walking over here from Harbor Court, and I see all these businesses that have closed. And it's funny. I come back from YAP, and I was writing a report last night, and I write a lot about resilience, whether it be cultural resilience or environmental resilience or resilience in thought. And really, the future of the world is really about resilience. Who will survive all of this? And I think that's applicable to business. Who survives? And I think Indigenous people, when I started my business, it was about being resilient. I wasn't about being a flash in the pan.
Right.
I wasn't necessarily interested in how big and bad I can get quickly. Mine was, I wanted to be here in 10 years. And you were there as in law school. I was never flashy. I should have been pajamas most of the time.
It's thoughtful.
And I was interested in slow and steady and winning the race. And I think I'm like that in business. And I think many Hawaiians who do well are also like that. They may start at craft fairs, but like Manuheali'i was like that. She started at craft fairs with t-shirts. But all these years later, who doesn't own Manuheali'i?
Exactly.
And so I think there's a lot we can learn from each other. And that's what I hope for Hawaii, and that's what I hope for our business sector, is that we can come together more often and learn from each other and develop a business community and a business culture that is more integrated with each other's strengths.
Now, from your website at Honua Consulting, you have significant clients that you are servicing.
People keep telling me, I'm like, they're
They
just
are.
nice people that have been kind enough to hire us.
Oh, good for you. But you have a good client base. You mentioned the Army Corps of Engineers, right?
So we work with, we haven't been hired. We do work like we're doing
partner
a project,
with them, yeah. But who are some of your clients?
So we've done work for we did some work for the Army. We do work for DLNR. We've done a lot of work for NOAA. The work for Marine Conservation Institute, for the Conservation International. We just are doing work for YAP, the state government, the country of YAP.
And so when you're doing work for these people, and I want to highlight this, are they selecting you not only because I know you run a great business, But are they selecting you because of the gravitas of your know-how coming from this community?
Because I'm just charming. I guess so. I mean, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think largely when we started, it was because we were largely connected, and I think we come largely connected to community, and I think we come very grounded to community. You know, we are not. I think if anything, we are very well known for not. We don't bull into community. We absolutely don't. I refuse to, and I think I'm, again, sticking to integrity. I do not. I just don't. We will walk away from projects before because my goal is the long game. I just won't. I mean, I have to live here. I mean, I tell people I have nowhere else to go. And the last thing I want is like calls from like my angry auntie, like, you did what? You know, I mean, I have nowhere else to go. So our relationship to our community, our culture, is more important than any paycheck. We don't sell ourselves out, nor do we sell our community out. So we stand by our projects, and our clients know that. If we sign on, we've had clients that call us the human body shields. They know, you know who you are, because we believe that much in the projects we take on.
Right.
They know if we sign on, we believe
It's for the long
absolutely
haul.
in the integrity of the project.
Excellent.
And it comes with my seal of approval. It means I've looked at it, and it means I'm willing to say to my family, my community, anybody, I believe this project is a good thing for my community, for Hawaii, and that means something. And so, yeah.
I love what you're saying. I'm from here and I have to stay here.
Yeah.
That means I have to be responsible with the clients that I pick.
Absolutely.
You're selective.
Oh, I'm very selective.
And I don't want to put you on the spot,
No, okay.
but what advice would you give to, say, you know, the folks behind Rail and Heart and all?
I would say, you know, I would say do the same. I mean, don't, make sure there's a there, because people remember, right? And people have a long memory. You only will have so much trust. We're very, very fortunate. We do a lot of community facilitation. We do a lot of community advisory work. We are only as good as people who we work with, you know, are willing to pick up the phone when I call. And look, I'm gonna get teary-eyed. Good God, I'm a blubbering mess today. I am endlessly grateful that people I admire, people I look up to, people who are, you know, cultural heroes of mine, people who mentored me when I was getting my degrees, will come to meetings when I ask, will stand by me, will vouch for me, will be a reference for us and my company.
Well, that's because, and I want to point this out to those who are viewing, you do the very same for other people on the issues that you believe in.
That's true.
We were just going to have a procurement policy board meeting, and I didn't ask you. You said, hey, do you need me to submit testimony? And I just thought that was fabulous because you just put your hand up and said, I'll do that.
Well, you and I, we go way back. But I believe in that. I believe in community. I believe I believe in that. I believe in putting your hand up. I don't believe in passive community. I believe in, you know, like people grabbing each other's hand and saying, you know,
let's get there.
You know, and I believe that's the only way you make community work. And at the same time, I believe in calling people on when they're making mistakes. And I believe that's how you make a better community. And so I believe business is so key to that. And I believe in good projects, and I believe in good companies, and I believe good companies are so huge.
Well, and your business gives you a platform too, doesn't it?
Really?
Really.
God help, you know, I was not tameable anyway, so, you know, I mean.
People listen when you have the backing of an entity, an
well, and
institution.
you know, and it's just that 10 years later, I believe work speaks for itself. I believe good work product and work product with integrity speaks volumes. So I'm just really blessed to still be still be standing after all these years.
Well,
so.
I want to thank you for being on this show. The time has gone well too fast for
There's
me.
going to have to be a part 2 of
There's
this one
a
at
part
some point.
deux coming up.
A Honua coming our way.
Exactly. My guest is Dr. Trisha Watson. She is going to come back. She has promised to visit with Life in the Law. I'm Danielle Conway, and you have watched the Think Tech Talk series. Have a good afternoon.